Hi, good morning. We're looking at doing this session today, covering the unit which is technology in tourism and hospitality industry. We've covered certain parts of the sections of this unit in the previous two sessions, and in today's session, what we're looking at doing is covering tasks, from the learning outcomes which were left out, things like the impact of IT on hospitality industry, the importance of internet in international tourism and social media. And last but not the least, learning outcome 4, which is the importance of security in the travel and tourism industry, and how the travel and tourism industry actually looks at implementation of technology, looking at areas like data protection and security issues. So we've got 3 presentations, which are basically, which I will be going through today in today's session, and they are named as Learning Outcome 1, Impact of IT on travel and tourism. The other one is usages of management information system in travel and tourism. And the third one that we are looking at is the role of internet and social media in the travel and tourism industry. So I'm going to go through some of these slides one by one, and then going to send you some handouts which are going to be related to each of these individual learning outcomes for additional reading towards the end of the presentation. So let me start with the first one, which is looking at the impact of on travel and tourism industry. So putting the presentation in the putting the slides in the presentation mode. If you have any questions, please do type away on the chat, and what I will do is take them up as we go along in the presentation. So what we've done so far in this particular unit is we've gone through the importance of technology in the travel and tourism industry. We've understood a bit of background of how technology has evolved over the years. We've also looked at what are the problems which are being faced and how technology has helped solve those problems. Things like problems of ticketing, room management, MIS, management of information systems, which have been used to manage customer information, preferences, things like that. And over the years, how different software and packages in terms of hardware and software have enabled the efficient operations of the hospitality industry. So today we are looking at task learning outcome 1.2 in particular, and then looking at the impact of IT on hospitality industry operations. So just to begin with, as an introduction, we have gone through this particular context of what is IT. IT stands for information technology, and in the hospitality industry, the use of IT has tremendously grown over the past 20 to 25 years or 2 decades. Now, this has happened primarily because of the changes which are happening in the sector, which is the technology is becoming much more efficient, fast, and the use of this technology is making the use of this technology is actually enabling the industry to become much more efficient and provide wider range of services, because tourism has become really global because of the connectivity which has got established over the last 2 or 3 decades. Now, the key things that we are going to study within this section would be to understand what are problems faced by the industry due to the lack of IT. Now, when IT was not there, what were the problems being faced by the industry? So number one, looking at some of the bullet points, there was an inaccuracy in terms of manually maintaining past and current guest details. So if you had stayed in a hotel previously and that information was stored on a manual register, then sometimes when the guests wanted to rebook, then this information, one, took a bit of time to recap and bring forward, and the other thing was that sometimes these details were not captured or transferred over from previous bookings to the new bookings accurately. The second was the problem of maintaining large number of records, which is to do with the fact that, as you know, a lot of people, the travel and tourism industry is over $1.5 trillion in terms of its worth. So every year, over 300 million tourists travel, on holidaying alone. Forget the business numbers. So here there is a problem of maintaining large number of records. And this is something which, the IT industry, the use of IT, computers, POS, point of sale systems, electronic booking systems, online travel agencies, this has been enabled to a lot of aspect by IT, wherein these things are now efficient and much more easily accessible. And the last bit was inaccuracy in maintaining the inventory, which affects the profits. So, for example, if you look at the food department, or if you look at the laundry department in the hotel, if the inventory of a particular item could not be maintained, perfectly, then the use of IT systems have actually enabled this to happen much more accurately and efficiently. Now, there are different forms of technologies used within the industry, and a few of them are listed on the slide here. So there are systems like PMS, Property Management System, CRS, which is Central Reservation Systems, GDS, which is Global Distribution Systems, and this is directly related to one of the tasks in the unit. Point of sale, sales and catering, yield management, guest history, telecommunication, which is systems like phone, intercom and other things available within the rooms when you book a hotel, call accounting systems, in-room systems, locking systems, payroll, time scheduling, attendance, and others which are utilized by the staff working within the particular hotel or the industry, and accounting systems. What we're going to look at is obviously a few just to understand the use of these systems and how this has enabled the industry to become much more efficient. So there are, what I've done is I put a picture of a few that we get to see when you check in into a hotel. So, for example, you get a card or a key, electronic key, which you use to, kind of when you check in and you move into your room, you use the key card to basically lock and unlock your room. When you check out, you're basically making payments through the credit card as against the cash. So, there are credit card machines which accept payment. The other things that we look at is most hotels today offer Wi-Fi. So networks which are installed across the different floors, accessibility into different rooms through Wi-Fi and Ethernet is now a common feature in most of the hotels. And security, which is a key aspect that we're going to discuss again in the Learning Outcome 4, is also a key aspect which is enabled through the IT side of things, now being integrated within the hotel industry. And this is to look at in particular, looking at in particular the security for the guests and also monitoring activities, in some cases, in some departments for staff, that the CCTV operations are particularly used. The other thing that we look at is that at the front desk, let's take an example, when you check into a hotel, when you're greeted by the receptionist, there is a great use of technology on that counter. And there are certain things that you look at, which is things like, property management system, which when you come in, the operator there or the receptionist there is able to check into your reference with your last name, see, things like what room has been booked, when it is booked, how long is this booked for, and, what are the key features or things that you've booked in terms of your preferences. And in some cases, when you look at in certain hotels, there are self-service kiosks as well, which you also get to see at the airports when you are trying to check in. You can check in if you have only a hand baggage, then you can check in through those kiosks, which allows you to basically go through the system of immigration, at a greater speed, reduces the number of transactions that you have to do, and also to a certain extent, some of these systems reduce the number of labor or people required to work within a particular department and makes the operations much more efficient. Now, one of the key systems that we get to see, which is used in most, retail organizations to a certain extent, restaurants and, other places like gyms and things like that, is something called the point of sale system. Now, this is where actually the retail transaction gets completed. So when you're checking out from the hotel and you're making a payment through the credit card, you're basically using something wherein the receptionist will give you a bill and you will settle the invoice or the bill through the payment through a credit card, and that is accepted through, and the transaction goes through the POS system. Now, the other thing that we are looking at is in certain cases, you also have something called a cash register. And that cash register is an electronic cash register now. It's not a manual one wherein the receptionist will key in the figures and it will print out a receipt. Say, for example, you're at a bar in the hotel, or you're in a restaurant, and when you ask for your check or your bill, what will happen is the hotel or the restaurant manager will essentially use a cash register to be able to give you a bill against which you will settle your payment. So these are things which are now becoming quite efficient in terms of operations. Things like when you use facilities like the gym, the swimming pool, the sauna, other facilities like the hotel, coffee shop within the hotel that you're staying, then point of sale systems essentially allow efficient generation of checks or invoices against which the customer is able to make the payment and do the settlement of the invoice. In some cases, you end up signing, and all these bills are collated at the reception. So when you check out, you can make a consolidated payment using the credit card machine. There is something called the Property Management System, PMS. This system basically allows the reservations to be maintained. And in this case, I'll give you an example. Like when you look at Holiday Inn, when you look at Premier Inn, Travel Lodge in the UK, what tends to happen is there are lots of these Travel Lodge or Premier Inns within a location. So if you look at London, Manchester, large cities, they would have in excess of 5 or 6 of these Premier Inns spread across the city. Now, in order for these systems to be efficiently working, and if you're trying to book a room online, what tends to happen is that most of these places use something called a property management system, wherein they're able to take adequate account of inventory at any given point in time, so that if the bookings are happening online or within the hotel, they have accurate details available in terms of what rooms are available, how many rooms are available, at what price, and things like that. So this system helps in basically reservations. It also looks at accounting, to a certain extent. If you're making payments online, then the system is able to take the payment and allocate that this has been paid and an appropriate receipt is generated, and essentially allows for effective room management to happen across a group of, across a hotel chain, which has a number of hotels or locations in which they have this booking system available. So PMS basically works in the background and allows the room management to happen when you're trying to book through online, in whether you're booking online or you're visiting a store or through a travel agent. Now, in order to make reservations, imagine if you just to understand this in a bit more detail, what you're looking at is, if you're looking at making reservations, how can you make reservations? You can make reservations by picking up the phone, speaking to the operator at the hotel or a travel agent. You can do the reservation online. You can go to a travel agent. You can also make reservations sometimes through mail order catalogs. And there are other forms of reservations that you can do. That means you can walk into the hotel and also ask to make a reservation. So the property management system collects and collates all the different forms of information from the reservations happening through different routes, and then is able to accurately depict, the system of reservations and rooms available, so that at any given point in time, the inventory available is absolutely accurate. Now, there is something called an accounting module. So here, in most cases, when you're doing a booking online, what tends to happen is the website will ask you to create an account in order for you to be able to either book or make a reservation, or in some cases when you're checking in. So when you check in, you are asked to create an account. Once you create an account, which is your name, personal details, once you've done that, the account will essentially you will get an email that your account has been created, and then to a certain extent, you can manage and monitor the payment and related transactions to the bookings that you're making through this particular accounting system. A lot of customers, imagine in a situation where a lot of customers who are part and have a membership for a particular group of hotels, like the Intercontinental Hotels. What it then gives you through the guest accounting module is that it allows you to book, make reservations, and also do checkouts automatically, in this case using this particular system. And that way you are able to generate summaries, statements of where you stayed, how long you stayed, what you paid for, and things like that. Now, if you look at the rooms management module, typically part of the property management PRS, property system, in that system, what it does is basically it makes the accurate availability of rooms across channels. So what will tend to happen is that A rooms management module will basically be looked at by the staff working within the hotel, and once the room is available, then a rate could be fixed. Once the rate is fixed, then either the information is updated so that at the reception, if there is a booking coming in, they have in-house information available, and to a certain extent, that information is also available to housekeeping so that they don't need to, look at changing the rooms, the linen, and the other things in the hotel room because that room is empty or is currently vacant. So these systems have integrated both the front end and the back end operations within the with the use of IT within the travel and tourism industry. Now, there are other systems that we get to see very briefly. When you book a room, go into a room, you're able to control the heat, the air conditioning, and certain other things within the room. And this system, which allows you to do that, is something which is integrated into the overall IT system, because each room, each guest is able to maintain its own temperature and heating, and that is in the back end regulated through a centralized IT system, and that is called the Energy Management and Climate Control System. And this is designed for the purposes of maintaining, the room temperature or air conditioning as per your comfort levels. And this equipment then has the ability to be maintained remotely by the IT staff in the hotel. If the room is empty, then this equipment can be operated and switched off or switched on, depending on its requirement, by the IT staff in the background. There are other things like the electronic locking system. These are typically things wherein you are issued a RFID key or a key related with some sort of an electronic code, which allows you to unlock your room. And these keys have a magnetic strip which can be read, just like the credit card, and it is primarily so that the guests only have an access to their rooms in terms of providing safety. Then this is something that we've seen across the use, wherein it's a supermarket that we visit, or we go and buy something in terms of products and services. We are always asked to make payments. Some of us make payments through the credit card, some of us make it through the debit card, and the machine which accepts this is a credit card terminal or a merchant terminal, and which allows the credit card and connects it in the background with the bank and the IT system to be able to process the payment as per the amount. There is another system that we get to see is that in most hotels' rooms now, you have something called the minibars, and the minibars typically are all available and as a characteristic feature are of 4/5-star hotels. Obviously, the hotel looks at making money because they are providing you chilled drinks, alcohol, non-alcoholic drinks in the vicinity of your room. And there are different kind of minibars which are available. There are traditional, which are non-automated. There are now semi-automated, and there are automated microprocessor controlled minibars, which means they are able to transport information back to the front desk in terms of what has been used or what has been kind of taken out from the minibar. It does calculations on its own because of the sensors and the IT system installed. These systems basically are a part and parcel of something called a smart network, which are normally installed within the hotel and hotel rooms, and they take care of, they basically create something called an interconnected network of devices within a particular room or within the hotel network. And all of this in the back end is connected to the IT infrastructure, wherein all the information is stored on the server and is stored so that the transactions can be retrieved and appropriate billing can be done to the guest room or the hotel when to the guest for the hotel room which has been used when the guest actually checks out. So things like when you make a payment, sometimes you are in a hotel, you don't need to walk up to the counter to be able to make the payment. The restaurant manager will bring a mobile credit card machine and will be charging your card, or you'll be asked to sign, and then the bill then gets generated, which basically is passed on to the reception, where you can actually pay and settle when you check out. The other things would be, there is something called on-demand TV, and the audiovisual part of equipment, which is part and parcel of every room nowadays, is you can rent movies in the vicinity of your room, and any movie that you rent or basically watch can be billed using the server, because it is pay on demand kind of a network which is available, wherein 1,000 movies are available, and you can choose a movie. Once you decide to choose a movie to watch, then the movie is booked and billed, and that transaction is captured in the back end by the server, and then the customer is invoiced for it when he or she is actually checking out. And similar things happen for other services which are also provided within the hotel. Things like when you make an outbound call, or if you use a PC within the the office or the boardroom, then these things can be built. Now, there are other things which there are other forms of IT system which typically you look at, which are utilized by the staff. So, as you know, in the hotel, the staff typically work 3 shifts. So there are 8-hour shifts, and there are 3 shifts which the staff work. The clocking in and clock out in terms of timing of the staff coming in and staff leaving is actually monitored as well, so that there is the shift timings of the staff could be moderated, maintained. And there are systems now available within the IT which allow this integration to happen rather than using the punch cards in the older days, a couple of decades back. So here, JD Edwards has a suite of application which has automated, things like warehousing, inventory, time and attendance, and reporting. And it works with all major data collection devices and is able to provide accurate information as and when required to the manager or the supervisor of that particular department. And this particular system is also integrated to the hotel IT infrastructure, wherein this is utilized primarily by the staff and not by the guests. Security, as we talked about, is an important aspect nowadays. Security is required to be monitored, and you will get to see that in more major hotels today, there is always there is always CCTV cameras installed, and they are in operation to manage and monitor the activity of staff, guests, and any other untoward element within the hotel premises. And this is done through a centralized system wherein a lot of cameras are installed, and obviously they're all broadcasting back to a centralized server wherein somebody is looking at monitoring this to safeguard security of guests, staff, and people in and around the hotel. So this is one part of the presentation, and particularly covers the basic aspects of IT. What is the impact of IT in the travel and tourism industry? So this covers the task 1.2 in learning outcome 1, and I will have the presentation also uploaded on Moodle. I'll also send a copy across for you to be able to revise and look at the handout. The second bit that we are looking at covering today is to do with the management information systems, which are predominantly used in the hospitality and travel and tourism sector. Now here, what we are looking at is the learning outcome 2.1, wherein it says where it asks for explain the role of management MIS essentially in travel and in tourism and hospitality operations. So here I'm going to run through a deck of slides which will give us some background in terms of how MIS is integrated today in the T&T sector or hospitality sector. In this particular thing, we are going to be studying a couple of things like TPS transaction processing system, management information system, decision support system, and how these allow certain operations and processes to happen, and how does the hotel or hospitality staff actually use it to maintain security and safety within the hotel room. Now, as I've already mentioned that travel and tourism is the fastest growing industry in any country, any geography. So I'm taking an example here of the Indian geography, wherein travel and tourism, because of the diverse diaspora and the spread of the Indian subcontinent, it is one of the fastest growing industry within the Indian context. And with the advancement of budget hotels, things like we get to see in the Western countries like Premier Inn, Travel Lodge, Holiday Inn, and which are basically budget hotels, what has happened is the proliferation of these hotels, budget hotels, has happened very clearly within other countries and other areas wherein travel and tourism is growing. So what currently is happening is that there is a faster integration of technology happening within these countries wherein they are growing in as a destination for travel and tourism. So case in point here is of the Indian subcontinent, wherein it talks about the WTO, which is the World Travel Organization, predicts about 25 million tourists visiting India in 2015. This number is 39 million for 2017. Now, India has currently over 200,000 hotel rooms, and there is still a shortage of over 100,000 rooms. So if there are so many guests currently visiting country, there are still shortage of rooms and hotel infrastructure in the Indian context when you look at that. So typically when you look at budget hotels, India is typically adding about 114,000, 114,000 hotel rooms over the next 5 years. And that in terms of investment is roughly 40,000 crores, or roughly, $4 billion dollars in terms of investment, which is going to be put in to create the additional capacity required to accommodate all these guests. Now, this requires obviously the integration of IT, and case in point that we look at is, for example, the Ginger chain of hotels, which is owned by the Tata Group, a very large conglomerate which has various interests in automobile, tea, iron and steel, and a couple of other industries, software industry like TCS. They have created something called the budget chain of hotels, called the Ginger chain of hotels, and they have started to kind of open 25 of these in various destinations to attract tourism. Now, when we look at that, what their goal and aim is primarily to integrate some of the key systems which are used in the Western world within the travel and tourism industry, and to make that system, to integrate that IT infrastructure, and then to make the MIS systems, making the overall operations of the hotels quite efficient and productive. Now, some of the things that we look at is, is that let's look at some of the systems, and what these systems will help do is help better plan, help better organize, help better direct, and help better control the basic operations of these hotels centrally through the integration of IT and IT infrastructure in the back end. So first things that we look at is TPS, which is Transaction Processing System, and this is nothing but an IT system which allows the business transactions to be captured from any point within the hotel. So whether it's the front desk, is the restaurant, is the gym, the sauna, the spa, the laundry department, it allows real-time processing and capturing of transactions or services which your customers are using within the hotel while they stay, and then they are made billable and made available as a summary, so that the billing could happen when the customer actually checks out. There is something called the room allocation system, and this room allocation system is like a central reservation system which is being employed across the 25 hotels which is being opened. And here what they've done is they've decided on the different types of rooms. They have a lot of agents which access this system. So at any given point in time, the room allocation system allows the system to predict and provide accurate information in terms of how many rooms are available, at what time, in what place, and at what price, so that the bookings, when it's happening through the agent's online route or in the hotel, they are all captured accurately and are able to be processed accurately. There are other systems which are being employed, and I was giving an example of the, you having a meal at the restaurant. So here, a system which has been designed, which captures real-time transactions under the TPS system, is a system which is utilized in the restaurant, wherein the person is able to take your orders according to what you're wanting to buy, and then accordingly provide you, the food. Once the food is there, once it is served, then the ability to be able to generate an invoice or a check, which is then settled by the customer either the time of checkout or in the restaurant itself, and the whole record of this is actually captured in the back end by the TPS system. There are other things that we've mentioned briefly in the earlier presentation, which is things like the point of sale terminals. This point of sale terminal is also a type of a transaction processing system. It basically is able to capture the transactions at a particular point and then communicate them back to the back end, bigger system wherein they are stored to generate customer preferences, records, so that next time the customer is looking at these services can be provided much more tailored and the preferences of the customer noted, so that they can be more specifically generated towards a type of a customer with his preferences kept in mind. So it keeps tracks of sales. In some of the cases, it is also used for things like payroll and accounting, and in some cases, this POS is also able to generate reports at the end of the day in terms of how many transactions have happened, what is the money which has come in. It automatically is able to cash out the cash register and things like that. So it's a type of a transaction processing system, and normally you get to see this towards where part of the system requires billing and invoicing to happen. Places like restaurant, gyms, saunas, spas, at the reception. but in the back end, this system is connected to the ATHE infrastructure, wherein all these transactions are then downloaded and stored for future, references. There are things like wireless POS, and you get to see an example of this, which is typically in the case of, when you make payments. And I did mention an example wherein you're in a restaurant, instead of you going out to the counter to pay the check, the person is able to bring you a mobile POS, which is wirelessly enabled and can accept your card payments, to be able to then transfer the transaction back to the centralized register or the cash register where it is stored, and is able to keep a track of this for billing purposes. Excuse me. This is an example of the screen in some cases when we look at the point of sale terminal. Sorry, moving forward to MIS. Now looking at the MIS, MIS is nothing but a management information system, which basically allows you to integrate all the back-end operations within a particular office. So in the case of a hotel or the travel and tourism industry, this particular system in the back-end is able to connect all the departments within a hotel. So if you think of various sections or departments within the hotel, things like the laundry department, housekeeping, you look at security, you look at maintenance, front office, back office, food and beverage, which includes restaurants, and also the other departments like the accounting department, payroll department. It is able to integrate all the information coming in from these departments into the centralized system, and this is then used by the management to create a strategy and basically look at reports which are generated using the MIS, and then are presented to the management for them to be able to make key decisions. A sample report would be that at the end of the day, the general manager of the hotel could basically use the MIS to create a report which will basically talk about how many rooms were sold, how many rooms are still vacant, things like how many transactions happened in a restaurant, what was the incoming, what is the outgoing, and things like that. The PMS we've already studied, it basically takes care of the room management and the connectivity of the room management and the booking system with regards to the different forms of booking which are available through travel agents and, online, website, even walk-ins. Now, just to look at the very basic functions to recap here, the property management system enables guests to make reservations. So if you have an account and you are a regular visitor to one of the hotel and you prefer staying in, say, for example, the Intercontinental hotels, you've signed in, you can make reservations using that system yourself. Sometimes it enables some basic form of accounting. That means you're able to check in and register and also check out by paying. And that is through the guest accounting system, which is a part of PMS. In some cases, it allows staff to maintain guest facilities. That means because you stay in that group of hotels as a member and your preferences and transactions are recorded, sometimes the staff, when you're checking in and checking out, can actually tailor some of the services depending on your preferences and your past usage of the hotel. It allows you to keep track of your financial transactions. That means you can generate your statements and summaries because you have an account and a login. You can track your activities, and some of the sales staff within the hotel can also track your activities using the account management system, which is there. It also allows you to interface with other systems, things like what are the kind of holidays you can take under the membership. Maybe say if you normally tend to visit most of the IHG hotels or Intercontinental Group hotels within Germany, France, sometimes you might get promotional packages to look at the holidays in US or in other countries. So this allows both the sales staff and yourself to be able to track some of these information. PMS also interfaces with other systems within the organization in terms of the backend, and it helps generate reports on the transaction and activities as a guest that you're doing while you're staying at the hotel. Now, when we look at putting all this together under the PMS system, this is a snapshot of what all it connects to in the backend, and where the software and hardware is connected, so that it is able to capture and record all the vital bits and pieces of information with regards to a customer staying at the hotel. So PMS can capture information from POS, which are used in restaurant and outlet, catering management, room reservations, food and beverage, things when you use facilities like the office desk and other things within the hotel for email, internet, and also if you use the infrastructure, within some of the suites, things like the computers and other things. Now, in some cases, this is a flow basically showing how a room service order is taken, and it's recorded using the transaction processing system, which is pretty much self-explanatory. Now, going on to this type of system, which is called the decision support system. These systems are basically classified as computerized information systems, which help the management or the key people within the management to be able to take decisions. So, say for example, a general manager or a manager at the front desk, events manager, they are able to take key bits of information using this system in certain cases, and they are, because this system primarily records all the data which is either transacted by the customer or the staff into the system, and this system then allows the senior management to be able to look at CRM, which is customer relationship management, based on the preferences and the type of things which the guest or the client are actually used while they were in the hotel. Now, CRM, which is basically nothing but customer relationship management, is a part of the decision support system, because some bits of information, which is the information related to demographics of the client or customer, preferences, and the service of usage of their services while the customer is actually staying at the hotel, is all a part of the customer relationship management system. Here, the model for managing the company interaction currently happens with current and future customers. And in the case of, for example, Ginger Hotels, owned by the Tata Group, their aim is to basically record some of these bits of services which the customers use, and then use this information to make them repeat customers of the same hotel or these services. And some of the key things which you will find are a part of the CRM system are things like relationship management, Salesforce automation, and the use of technology actually allows the IT department or the front desk to be able to send out newsletters, email campaigns at relevant points in time, to be able to promote some of these feature products and services to its customers, so that they can get repeat business. Now, when you look at IT in particular, the use of IT has extended, to basically look at creating a strategy wherein some of these tools and techniques are being used by hotels to create repeat customers for the, say for example, for hotel bookings. And what you get to see, which has been created, is things like, or channels like corporate tie-ups, loyalty cards, referral systems, travel agent, hop and hop off services, and corporate discounts. Now, these are all various forms of promotions which also capture data. So when the hotels, for example, a hotel chain like Hilton, they know throughout the year that they are busy during summer holidays, winter holidays, and the peak season. There are certain times of the year when the hotels are not having full capacity in terms of bookings. So what the hotels have done, in terms of the management has done, is they've created a strategy through which they come out with offers using certain types of tools and techniques, things like loyalty card, referral systems, travel agents. And then here also a great amount of data is generated, and that data needs to be captured using the use of IT systems, things like the transaction processing system, PRS, property management system, and decision support system. So imagine a use of a loyalty card. Now, if you are a member of a group of hotels and you regularly use the hotel for business and personal use, your loyalty card records all the basic bits of information in terms of your usage, how long you stay, what you pay, what you eat, and things like that. Now, data from these can also be downloaded onto the systems at some point in time, and they then can be used to tailor services or provide products and services which are much more tailored to the customer requirement. So here, this particular, capturing of information using certain techniques which are primarily used for marketing and promotional purposes also have integration of IT, because at some stage, this particular device or the channel also captures the customer information, which is then passed on to the backend IT systems to be able to be processed, and then on the basis of which decision making and a new strategy in terms of promotions could be formed. Now, last but not the least, what we are looking at is security. Now, there are various things that you look at within the hotel which are available. Now, in most hotels, you typically have something called the electronics locker or safety lockers. Here, they expect you to kind of, put in most of your valuables, and when you're in and about, inside or outside the room, this particular thing has electronic key code which you can use, password, and then create, and most of your valuables can stay, safe. There are obviously other things that we've discussed, things like the electronic access keys for the doors. That means the guest having the key can only get into the room and come out of the room. There are times wherein sometimes you have to, when you get into the room, you have to put the card into the slot so that it activates the electricity, lighting, and everything else in the room as well. This is to save on the unauthorized use of the facilities and services within the hotel room. And then obviously supervision in terms of CCTV is something that we get to see quite often, which is happening within the hotels, because they need to look at maintaining security and also look at the premises to secure these premises, both for customers, guests, and staff working within the system. So that brings us to the end of Welcome to, which is primarily related to the use of management information systems across the travel and tourism industry. And this particular slide will also, along with a handout, be uploaded on Moodle, which you can look at a later stage. I'm going to briefly run through the last bit, which is the Welcome 3, which is the role of internet and social media in travel and tourism, and for which there's this deck of slides that I'm going to go through. As you know that the use of internet, which has become quite, detailed now, and has given rise to the channels like online travel agencies in the recent, years. Agencies like Kayak, Trivago, hotels.com, bookings.com. These are all portals through which customers now are able to access, property management system in general, are able to book rooms and, or book hotels depending on when they are and where they are holidaying. So we look at internet now as a very important channel, which customers today utilize to be able to book their holidays or book hotel rooms, using this channel. So essentially looking at a few slides which basically talk about that in the pre-2000, if you look at, there was nothing of these services available, and most of the bookings of the hotel used to happen through customers, customer agents, travel agents or, agents in general, which looked at basically providing you these booking services. But with the use of internet and the use of technology within the internet, these services are now within the grasp of every customer, and you're able to book rooms, look at virtual views of the rooms and the hotels even before you do the booking yourself in the comfort of your room using some of these features and facilities. Now, along with that, what has happened is that in most cases, what we are doing now is before we go to a particular place, we also look at understanding the reviews the site has had. And that is where the social media has played an important role, is that there are sites like TripAdvisor, which basically collect reviews on behalf of the customers for the properties or the hotels in which they stay in. And these are then also influential in you to take a decision while you're booking a hotel or a holiday package and things like that. So social media websites today look at, the hotels and companies within the hospitality industry, and they have a keen understanding of how you're able to look at, doing the reviews when you've stayed in a particular hotel and, used a particular service within the industry. The other things that we look at is smartphone applications. So most of the phones today, in the last couple of years, have developed a lot of applications wherein this particular information is available in the palm of your hands using a smartphone or an app that you've downloaded. Things like on the iPhone, the Android. Most of the business travelers have apps for the hotels, for their loyalty card and things like that, which allow you to keep track of the points that you're earning and the facilities that you're using within the hotel. Now, the role of internet has also become quite important, is because it has become one of the key channels through which now customers advertise and do an outreach to customers. So when you look at, in particular, the example of internet, what is happening is that the spend on marketing is increasing threefolds as compared to the traditional spend, which happens primarily through the print or TV advertising. Because we have access to the internet on most of the devices today. There are devices like smartphones, laptops, PCs, and also because of the internet, this has become an important tool wherein the internet is used by the hotel or the travel and tourism industry to look at aggressive marketing, to do outreach to the customers, wherein you are able to go to a wider audience by spending less money and advertising your offers across the geography. A typical example of that is the pay-per-click advertising, wherein what you get to see is that when you try and find and do a search on Google for, say, for example, a hotel that you want to book, you will normally see sponsored ads which come through on the right-hand side or on the top, which are basically paid for. And here, the group of hotels or, basic advertisers are actually paying a bit of premium to try and kind of, have their services advertised on top when you do a search using the Google search engine. The internet is also used as a key tool of comparison. And for booking and reservations today, before you even book a room or a hotel, what you do is you go onto a comparison website. You look at basically comparing the prices of the rooms and the features that you're getting. And this has been enabled because of the use of internet and the software, which allows you to be able to compare some of these features. This weren't available. If you look at some of these things, they were not available before 2002 within the travel and tourism or the hotel industry. And here you're able to make immediate bookings, you're able to cancel bookings, amend bookings, and all this is possible because of the internet. This slide basically is an interesting slide because it gives you an idea in terms of how much in terms of percentage is used by customers to make online reservations. So online travel agencies like Travelocity, Orbitz, Expedia, they are 34% of all the bookings made across the hotels or for holidays and other things. The other websites, which are 27%, personal referrals 25%. You recommend a site like Secret Escapes to a friend through via email, and that is nothing but a personal referral. That means you can only sign into that site if you have been referred by somebody on email, and that is 25% today in terms of referral as a business. And there are others which are called to travel agencies. As you can see, they're on the decline. People are going directly now online to be able to do reservations and bookings, as against going to travel agents or travel companies, because they see if they cut out the middlemen, they are able to get better prices for bookings and reservations as against and also make comparisons as against the travel agents and authorities. Now, this has led to also one of the key things which has happened is this has led to more revenues for the hoteliers, because it enables them to cut out the middlemen in the middle, and they are able to reach out to the customer directly because of the use of internet and social media. So this is a new channel which offers the hotel products and services to the customer directly. They have the ability to be able to charge a deposit for a room prior to a check-in. That means you can make payments before or at the time of booking, and they're able to accept payments from all possible means, which is PayPal, credit cards, debit card, and while you're making or surfing for the information as well. The other benefits, is that it has led to a bit of decrease in the hotel expenses in terms of marketing costs, things like telephone costs, staff costs, because it has cut out a lot of intermediate channels. Like if you're looking at booking a hotel, most of the information is available online. You can see the virtual view of the room. You can see the types of facilities which it provides, which means that you do not need to be able to speak to an operator at the hotel to try and confirm some of these services, because they're advertised quite clearly and in advance using the internet on the hotel website. So it decreases the expenses to a certain extent, wherein the human interaction and employment level, wherein certain things depictable through the internet allows, and the use of technology allows them to be done away with when you're looking at reservations and booking. In some cases, it has also enabled ease of transaction for customers because of the automated payment systems. That means you can pay by any form using either PayPal, credit cards, debit cards, other forms of payments. You can make the booking, but you can pay at the time when you check into the hotel, and these kind of make the transactions easier for customers. Last but not the least, a few things that we look at, which is customer relationship management. The use of technology also has come in, wherein there are now automated systems wherein you can dial and get information about a particular room or a service on the telephone number. So that means you call a particular number, and there is an automated service which helps you get that bit of information, which is either emailed to you, put in the post, and that also allows for facilitating faster communication. A typical example of that is you're surfing the internet, you want to book a hotel, but it's 11 p.m. in the night. You don't expect somebody at the front desk or in the bookings department to be present within the hotel to be able to give you that information that you need there and then. So automated communication systems allow you to basically call in a particular number at the hotel, and that information, after the automated service asks you a few questions, is able to either send that across to you on email or through the post as per your preference, and you're still able to get that information at that point in time. So it facilitates easier communication at odd hours because of the use of IT and internet and technology in general. Now, a lot of there is a positive and a negative effect of the use of internet and social media. One of the positive and negative effect could be that the customers are able to put reviews online, which can be picked up by others to get influence while they do the booking. So if you've not had a good experience and you blog about it, or you put it on the internet on a site like TripAdvisor, some of the other customers who are looking at booking the rooms can also look at that review, and the way you put that review, which helps them to either make a favorable decision or change the hotel in terms of not making a favorable decision. So customer reviews are quite important in the context of internet and social media, because this is something which customers look at today, even before making bookings or reservations online, and it to a certain extent also persuades and helps influence their decision while they're making bookings with regards to reading the reviews. So a positive review is worth 1,000 word of mouths, which is what they say can generate business, and a negative review can easily drive customers away. There are lots of surveys which the internet allows us to serve, because you are able to, once you've used the service or a facility, then the hotel can actually send across a survey to you, and that survey basically means that you are able to provide an accurate feedback, take that survey, and then because of which it allows the customers, the hotels and the industry in general to be able to get feedback in terms of how to improve their services or better provide those services tailored to your preferences when you next use that service within the hotel. And it has made the feedback system quite faster, instant, because they send you a survey, you can take a survey online using the internet, all the responses are recorded online, and the calculation of those responses provides efficient pace of information, which then the senior management can use, or the concerned manager can use to basically, tailor that service next time in a very better and efficient way when you make use of that service again. There are some of the outs which I'm going to across this presentation as well, and that would help you to revise and build a bit more knowledge in terms of some of these issues. And with this, what will happen is we have kind of wrapped up this Unit 4 in terms of covering all the 4 learning outcomes and the role of IT or technology in general within the travel and tourism industry. So thanks a lot for attending the session today. I will send across a copy of this recording and the presentations and the handouts to you in the email just after the session. If you have further queries and questions, please feel free to get back to me. And as always, available on phone and email. Thanks very much. Take care. Bye now.